everybody. Thank you very much for your time. So this is an expert panel. You can see open source identity and access management. The experts are gathering around me. My name is Shawn McKinney. I'm the moderator. I am not an expert. I'm an end user. The topic is it's a big topic. It's an important topic of identity and access management, and then the open source aspect of it is interesting and topical and new. And so Shawn McKinney is my brother, and he brought the panel together. And so what he's going to try to do is he's going to try to let these four experts present, and then we're going to try to have time for questions. So my role is timekeeper. I was the only one to watch, so he asked me to come up and keep everybody on time. So what we're going to try to do is get folks to, these gentlemen to talk to their slides in 5 minutes, and we'll see how successful we are at that. And then we're going to open it up to you for questions. So hopefully you'll be thinking about your issues and your questions as they relate to what is discussed here. And we can, so we're really interested. We'd love to, if we could, after the presentations, to have an interesting discussion. So my expert panel, Ludovic Poitou from ForgeRock, Matthew Hardin from Symas, Pascal Jacoby back here half hidden behind the podium, and Shawn McKinney from Joshua Tree. As I said, we'll start with the presentations and then we'll open it up for questions. Here are some of the sample questions that we came up with, and we may come back to these if we don't get a lot of participation at the end. So Ludovic Poitou is going to lead us off.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. So Ludovic Poitou, I work for ForgeRock. Just a quick word about ForgeRock. We're a startup company, started about 3 years ago. We're growing pretty fast. We're about 80 employees worldwide. And we're headquartered in San Francisco, but we have offices in different countries. I'm based in France, and I manage the French office, which is a research and development center. We recently raised some money from Axel Partners. We have pretty big figures as advisors. So you recognize Scott McNeely, who was this morning presenting to our customers at a breakfast, and James Gosling, who is also helping us, and will be at a party we're throwing tomorrow. I'm a software engineer at core. That's what I've studied and what I've done for the last 20 years. I used to work for Sun, and then I moved to ForgeRock. I'm now moving more into the dark side of product management, but I'm still coding, and I enjoy Java. So ForgeRock has a vision of having a complete open identity stack. And the stack is made of 3 products that shares common services like authentication, authorization, all the logging, the auditing, everything is common to all 3 products. But each product has its own role. So we have OpenIDM, which does the provisioning and the workflow. We have OpenAM, which does the authentication, federation, and access control. And we have a directory that is basically where you store all your identities. What is unique is everything is open source. We share the common modules between all the 3 products. We have a common API, so you can access with very consistent APIs all of the services. And we will have a common UI that will be able to manage whatever aspect of identities that you want throughout all the products. And everything is 100% Java. So pure Java, pure open source. To dive a little bit more, all our products, they're open source. You can find everything in the community. We host the open source community and services at ForgeRock.org. We use the CDL license. As you are going to see, most of what we do is inherited from Sun Microsystems. So OpenAM is the authentication, authorization, and federation product. It is actually the continuation of Sun OpenSSO project and the Sun Access Manager project. OpenDJ is the directory server, LDAP compliant directory server. It's, again, a continuation of a Sun project, the OpenDS project that was started to replace the Sun directory server project. So these two projects are projects that are still on java.net, but you don't see any change that are occurring to them. OpenDS, OpenSSO, they're both dead. So we took over the development of it and continue as open source. We're investing into the source code and developing the product. And we're also selling support subscription. The third product is OpenIDM, and that's the identity management solution, which has provisioning, reconciliation, and workflows. It's a new project. We built it from scratch. And the intent is actually to provide a very flexible framework for doing identity provisioning. And it's built by the people who used to deploy Sun Identity Manager at Sun. So we leverage one of the project that was there, the Identity Connector Framework. And connectors, the Identity Connector Framework is a project where people can contribute their specific connectors, and it works with our product, it works with Sun IDM, it works with other vendors' IDM product. So that's briefly an overview of what we do at ForgeRock. And from then, I'm going to let who is the next is.
And that was exactly 5 minutes, so thank you, Ludo. That was great. Next is Matt Hardin.
Good afternoon, evening. How are y'all doing? All right, so I'm Matt Hardin, and I'm from Symas. Let's see. I want to talk to you a little bit about Symas very, very quickly. What we really are about, and what I want to talk to you about, is really how we turned an open source product into from a reference platform into a commercially accepted platform that's in use by many of the Fortune 500 companies. So this is Symas Creds. One of the interesting things about us is that we have no debt. We are completely bootstrapped. We're very small, very distributed. We take advantage of all of the internet technologies that are available, like voice over IP, our data centers down in San Diego, and we have staff on 2 continents. So that's if you missed anything, go look it up on the on the web. Let's see about me. I'm a generalist. My philosophy is use the right tool for the job. Java's not bad. C is great. Actually, no. I really and truly do believe in using the right tool for the job. A lot of what we did, though, in Symas, and these are just my my credentials. Okay, so I've done a lot of work, a lot of gray hair, a lot of lost hair. How we got here, besides having the prettiest and the sexiest directory server on the market, we invested very heavily since 2000. We invested in the Open LDAP code base, and that was early days for open source moving into the into industry. And our first, I remember we got a call from Hewlett-Packard one afternoon about a month after we decided that we wanted to package Open LDAP, and we didn't know what to say. They became our biggest customer, our first customer. We run their global directories, but we also have a full list of of A-list clients. So what we brought, though, was professional product discipline, and we married that to the freedom of open source. It hadn't really been heard of except in places like Red Hat. We didn't know whether it was going to work or not. But what we found very, very slowly over a period of time is that responsible conduct engenders confidence, because that's really what we found we needed. People didn't believe us. They saw our pricing, they didn't believe us. Okay, because we were offering better software for a lot less money than you could have elsewhere. So we came up with a set of guidelines. We believe in transparency and access to personnel. The person that answers the phone when you call support can usually solve your problem, whether it's a complex problem or a simple problem. And we try really, really hard to be easy to do business with. And partnerships and alliances are key. Sponsored development, I talked about HP a little bit earlier. The first 6 or 8 major overlays that went into Open LDAP were commissioned by Hewlett-Packard, and they were donated. And so we found that was really a great avenue for enhancing the software. It all goes into the source base. It all gets pushed upstream, and then it all gets churned out and built as part of Open LDAP, Symas Open LDAP binaries that we test and ship. We have resellers and OEMs around the globe. We also are working with organizations like Joshua Tree, which you'll hear about. And so OpenLDAP is becoming a component in pieces that are higher up in the stack. And the other thing that was really, really important was persistence, reputation, and gaining the trust of our customers. The biggest aspect of, the biggest thing that I can point to about the reason that we were successful in this business was that people trust us. We have impeccable references, and it's not, it's not the BS that you get from, oh yeah, they came in and they delivered. It's, we actually go the extra mile. And our customers notice the difference. Our retention rate, we're an annual subscription base. Our retention rate is above 95%, which is very, very good. And we are acquiring new customers at a fairly low rate. I mentioned that we were 9 people. We don't ever expect to get real big, but what we want is a good, solid customer base, and we want a business with lots and lots of legs, because there's an expression when I was young: when your customer gets a cold, you get pneumonia. And by God, when we have customers in all different segments of the industry, and so not all of them are going to get nailed at the same time. I hope. 2013 is still coming. Why? Thanks. Well, open source for security. We really do think that it's the best approach for developing software, security software in particular. You want extensive peer review. The security comes from the algorithms and good design. And if you're hiding your source code, you're hiding some skeletons, whether you know they're there or not. Community driven. OpenLDAP is what it is because of the community that is using it and contributing it to it. We're not the only contributors. And one of the chief benefits is the ability to use it free of charge. If you have the wherewithal, the people to do it, and you're willing to commit the resources, have at it. We're not, we don't get territorial about it. And the other key thing is that OpenLDAP is owned by a completely neutral entity. The OpenLDAP Foundation exists only to promote OpenLDAP. It's not a business. It's only there for the health of the software. And even though we fund, they don't listen to us too much. Partnerships for mutual benefit, and they're not always necessarily financial. Sometimes it's just through reputation. We do a lot of work like that. I think that a very important part of getting open source into security has to do with ubiquity. You got to have interfaces from every single major language environment. Perl, PHP, Python. Java's already there. The C bindings are going to come along sometime next year. Once those are in place, then we can do the other ones. And talking specifically about for Fortress, which we'll hear about a little bit later on. The other thing that we see that's really, really important is education. We run LDAP University, which we don't run as a profit center. It takes engineers out of the support team for 2 days, 2 dead days. And so we run it really to cover and to educate our people, our customers. Because we know that if we have a customer that knows what they're doing and has been through our training class, that our support costs are lower. And then the other thing is, it has to become the de facto standard. When you're going to share files among a set of Linux boxes, what's the first thing that comes to mind? NFS, right? Well, so we need the same kind of commonality. It's just got to be out there. You got to say, well, okay, the RBAC standard, the NIST RBAC standard. What else are you going to use? It doesn't make sense to do anything else. I'm going to brag just a little bit. When you say you want an open source LDAP product, what are you going to get? You're going to go get OpenLDAP, aren't you? Now, not to take away from Ludo's product, but OpenLDAP has been out there longer and it's more stable and it's just been more accepted. And so what we need to do is we need to push this stuff out there, more security products out there in the same way, and they need to be accessible at low cost. Or no cost. That's all I have. Thanks for listening.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. So I've been invited by Shawn here to participate in that forum in order to present a project which has been started in France around under the umbrella of Object Web, which is an open source incubator which has been doing a number of projects among the years, which are probably not well known on these shores of the Atlantic, but which seem to have some value. So I'll try to cover a bit what has been done already in the field of identity management within that incubator very, very quickly, and then what we are working together, just to give you a feel about what's being cooked, at least on the other side of the Atlantic. This being said, all these products are probably to be seen as a communitary open source projects by opposition by company sponsored, which means that they are generally developed around the academia, etc. And I believe the first achievement that should be mentioned before we start is that the fact that everything is being done now under the umbrella of an open source major initiative in Europe. There are a few which are starting and which are less known, and probably it would be worse that they are more known around cloud management. So I have no time to dive into details. What is certain is that within a cloud project you'll find some pieces for authorization and authentication, which are the core of identity management. And here there are various things that we do that are probably worth noticing. Next, please. So I will not dive into detail, but the foundation for us is that we have already a project which is running, which is serving literally tens of thousands of users around authentication, which is called Lemon LDAP, which means that we are probably better at software than at marketing, but this is the name of the project, and there is very little I can do with that. This being said, the product is much more interesting in our opinion than its name. In terms of support of nearly everything, it's mostly you can see it as a Swiss Army knife of authentication. It is now used essentially to build the identity federation services around SAML, which means identity provider and service providers. And essentially, it scales to thousands of users, proven as it serves all the ministries in France at least, and in some countries in Europe. The other advantage we find into that component is that being written for all its non-core components in Perl, it is extremely easily customizable, adaptable to specific needs, etc., etc. And again, its architecture has been thought of for massive environments such as the ones we expect as soon as we will be in cloud computing environments. Next, please. So then, what am I doing on the basis of that? I'm essentially a community manager starting to implement a project within that the OW2 framework, which will be an authorization architecture. So as the picture I put here is typically a very classical infrastructure for authorization, which is essentially a client, what they call the PEP, policy enforcement point, which calls the engine, which is the PDP. And the PDP is essentially controlled through security policy that would allow you, for example, to say that www.something.com is only to be accessed by people coming from a given domain between work hours or things like that. So it's a pretty significantly sophisticated language which has been blessed by the OASIS consortium and that we are working against. The problem being that sophisticated means very complex, and the whole issue about that is trying to find a balance between the two, which is not a simple, which is less than a simple job. Next. The core of it, everybody in the authorization business works with some XACML essentially, which is probably to not to go for long, because now we are facing difficulties with that in terms of support of XACML version 3, which means the version which is usable in cloud environments. So there are good reasons why we can believe that the end of life of that component will happen sometime. But for the moment, we are working on that, and we are working on that for a very good reason, which is that it has been proven to be extremely flexible. And when I'm saying flexible, let's imagine a scenario where you want to control the access. You have policies where you want to control the access of a system based on external systems, such as, for example, the heat of the computer or whatever. You can implement such things very easily within that framework. So it has proven to have qualities, even if it has defects. So we're complementing that in a number of ways in order to make a solution, or at least a framework, that will provide a number of things. Pretty distinctive, we believe. Next. And one of those things, and I'll probably stop there, is the fact that we strongly believe that any solution which provides roles should be based now on attribute certificates, on X509 attribute certificates, which is something that probably are not very popular. So let me just explain this one. Certificates for identifying someone are now something common that everybody uses since the advent of SSL and the PKIs and all those good things. What is less known is that the standard has evolved in 2004, I believe, with a new flavor of certificates which mimic a corporate badge and not an identity card. What this means is that those pieces of data are telling you not that you are John Smith, but that John Smith has the access to the corporate building, for example. So that's a completely different semantic, which is part of the X509 standard since for a while, and which provides a very elegant means to provide role information. When I mean elegant, I mean, for example, that the level of security that you get with that is by no means comparable to putting people in groups in the directory as you do, or things like that. Thinking of delegation of roles, for example, becomes extremely simple with such a design. So we are strong believers of those technologies, and we're implementing that within the ZACML framework in strong collaboration with the English team, university team, which has developed initializing those works. And I think this is it, no? Yes, this is it. Thank you.
Thanks, Pascal. So my name's Shawn McKinney, and I'm the designer and creator of a product called Fortress, and it's an open source identity access management solution. It implements many standards, most importantly, ANSI RBAC. And so just curious, how many of you know what the 4 components are of ANSI RBAC? So I'll help you out with one of them, hierarchical roles. That's one of them. Anybody? Yeah, and that's pretty common. So a lot of people claim, next slide please, a lot of people claim to be RBAC compliant. You'll hear a lot of vendors throw that around, that they're RBAC compliant. You know, we've got groups, we've got access control lists. That's not RBAC, okay? RBAC is much more than that. So I don't have time to explain that to you right now, but Fortress is that's one of our main things, is that we're 100% RBAC compliant. So anyway, why am I standing here in front of you? This journey that I'm on started 3 years ago, and I was here at JavaOne 2009, and I presented a blueprint for securing web and SOA-based applications. And at that time, we didn't have anything really to give you. We didn't have anything to tie it all together. Now, we obviously were using Matt's solution, which was OpenLDAP, and we were using some other things. But we didn't have one product to kind of tie it all together. So did anybody see that session, by the way, TS4213, 3 years ago? Good. I'm glad nobody was there, because it was awful. It was 60 slides. I had 60 slides of trying to show you how to do it. And it was just far too difficult to do. So, but this is something that I've spent probably 10, 15 years in the trenches learning how to do this, and myself and a team of other people. And so it's not really something that's real easy to do. So after that session, I kind of went home and had my tail between my legs, and I was really disappointed, because it's just, because what we're trying to do is help you guys. We're trying to help you with your identity problems. We're trying to give you something that you can use to secure your networks and your applications. And I didn't have that at the time to give to you. So I went back to my boss, and I worked for a Fortune 100 company or a Fortune 500 company, and I was lead security architect for this company, and they called themselves the largest financial services provider for retail banks in the world. So this is a big company. And I went back to him and I said, you know that product that I've been spending 15 years on? Can we open source that? Can we give it to the community? And it was like trying to feed a salad to a dog, okay? That just wasn't going to happen, right? And that's a problem today, is that a lot of the big companies, they don't understand the value of releasing source code as a public thing. They don't understand the value. Now they're going to consume it, and they're happy to consume it, but they're not going to release it, and they don't want to support it. And the reason why is because the executives, all they see is risk, and they don't see any of the reward. Okay, so I was pretty frustrated by that, and I ended up quitting my job. And I spent 3 years, and I designed this system. We call it Fortress. And next slide, please. Fortress is it's standards-based, so everything's all about standards. And so I already told you about RBAC. I wish I could tell you more. I don't have time. But that's not all it is. It's got some other things. It's got this thing called ARBAC, which is Administrative Role-Based Access Control, and that's how you do delegation. That's how you maintain users and administrative policies over a large enterprise. How do you delegate that policy securely, and how does that work? And so that's part of what's in there. We've got IETF password policies. We've got centralized audits. We've implemented providers for Java EE security. So if you use WebSphere, use Tomcat, or use JBoss, we've got plugins that you can use that map back to our API and back to our directory. The other thing that we've done is we bundled this API with infrastructure, okay? Because an API is not enough. Okay, and that's why I had Matt up here talking to you about the directory. Okay, you got to have an enterprise directory. And so what we did with Fortress is that we created these packages, these binary packages that you can pull down for many different platforms, and it has a wizard that installs, and it installs OpenLDAP, and it runs regression tests, and it has all these tools. And the reason is because we want to give you something that you can use to secure your applications. Now, we're not in it because we just, obviously we're going to have paid support, right? I mean, we got to keep the lights on. But there's no strings attached to this source code. It's BSD. Everything in it's open source. You're free to use it. You can use it commercially. There's no strings attached. So, and these are some of the things that we've got, and I don't have time to go through it. But next slide, please. So what we're working on tomorrow is we're getting ready to release something called OnMOS, which is it's a policy server. It implements REST, so that not only do we give you a Java API that implements these protocols that I'm talking about, but we've wrapped it with REST so that you can use it across your enterprise. You can call it from non-Java applications. And that's going to be released at the end of this month. It'll be a beta release, okay? And then another thing that we're working on is called Commander, and that's our web UI. So we're going to give you a web UI that you can use so that you can provision these policies that we're talking about. And then what's in the inception phase right now is Perimeter, which is an SSO server. And we're probably not going to build that. We're going to go out and we're going to find a best-of-breed solution from somebody. It might, I don't know who yet. It might be Lemon LDAP. It might be something else. But we're going to find an SSO server and we're going to bundle it. So our idea is what we're trying to do is give you a complete 100% ready-to-go identity access management solution so that you can use it, because it's time that we started to do something, and it's time that we stop rolling our own solutions and have something that is available for everybody. So that's basically what we're trying to do. And, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that our solution will be the one that ends up being the ubiquitous solution that Matt's talking about. It may be Ludo's solution. It may be somebody else's solution, but we're going to consolidate. And what we're going to have eventually is we're going to have one open source identity access management solution that competes with the commercial guys. So that's our vision. That's what we're going to do.
Any thoughts or questions or comments, criticisms?
What's missing?
Words of encouragement?
What are we not talking? What do you need?
Migration path.
Migration path. Join us. Show us how to do it. Okay, one thing that I guess, did you put the slide on how to contact us? So, we're probably not going to figure out a migration path in 15 minutes. But, the thing about these community solutions is you have to contribute. You have to join us. You have to feed us your requirements. And you have to use it. You have to feed us bugs. Go ahead.
Just one thing on the migration path. If you're a Sun customer or you used to be a Sun customer, Migration path for us is straightforward. We're just continuing the product, so it's easy. OpenSSO, you migrate, it's an upgrade to OpenIAM. You want to upgrade OpenSSO, your access manager solution, to Oracle Access Management, you have to replace it, redo it. So that's one answer. The other answer is we're working with partners that are doing integration, and they have migration solutions. They do it for our customers, and they reuse that, and they know how to migrate project to project. I'm not saying it's easy. Some of it is really entrenched, especially identity management is really entrenched into your business, but there are solutions to migrate. What was the question?
So I have a question about the SSO. Now, there are like a lot of different protocols like that works around SAML, BOF, or like CAS and all. They work very well if you have one specific user agent. Now, enterprise, you might have multiple user agents, including multiple browsers, standalone application, and all of that. Are you familiar with any existing or maybe any ongoing effort under which like we can use some sort of like a access manager where user from a particular host can log into the application or across multiple domains as in a single sign-on environment? So I should be able to log into maybe a standalone application and then go to a browser and maybe use the same session.
So the question is more about SSO and what are the solutions to embrace multiple protocols and even multiple services, where it's an enterprise SSO versus web SSO. Okay. Our solution is really a web SSO solution. We're not focusing on the enterprise one because the problems are very different. There are solutions that you can use to do enterprise SSO and that fits within our product.
Well, we'll take it as a requirement. So enterprise SSO, that's what you're saying.
There are some, I think there's an open source solution, at least developed in France, doing enterprise SSO that can fit also within.
What's
web
it called,
SSO
Ludo?
solution. I don't remember the name. It's
Okay, well, we'll hand out some business cards and you can get a hold of us later. Okay, so there's another question in the back of the room. Go ahead.
You just need Kerberos, right?
Kerberos.
Kerberos is one.
Kerberos for monodomain, you can live with Kerberos. As soon as you enter a complex business agreement with multiple organizations that need to be recognized mutually, etc., this is where identity federation will play. So the two, because it has taken some time even for me to understand exactly where Kerberos plays and where SAML plays, and it's clear that the distinction between both is not very evident. But fundamentally, believe me, when you're in single domain, Kerberos is just wonderful and does the job. As soon as you enter, typically me, I work in a defense organization, so typically with NATO projects with multiple identification centers that you need to federate in order to provide access to a given application, then here SAML will do the job fundamentally.
We have time for one more question, if there's one more. Okay. We've got, as you said, and there were some great questions. Thank you very much. We do have business cards up here, and a last question.
My name is Anil Sultana from JavaOne. I know you guys had this presentation, but I have some feedback. You're talking about a lot of stuff, open air lab, coming from the Sun legacy and stuff. As a feedback, I personally feel that you need to provide things like Maven integration and things where the other words going towards. All this stuff is great, but open source is fine. But the thing is, you've got to embrace some of the newer stuff like Maven integration, make things simpler.
So you're talking about Maven integration, and Maven is basically a developer problem. It's not. So yes, some open source projects are playing with other open source projects, and Maven is one way to integrate, especially in the Java world. At Sun, we didn't use Maven. ForgeRock, we're moving everything to Maven. However, that is going to be useful for you as a developer to build on top of this project. Maybe there's license issues, there are different things that you want to look at. But as a deployment for an enterprise, I don't see Maven being useful. We're really focusing on building solutions to solve problems for customers. It's open source. You can play with it. You can integrate within your project. We're trying to do things to help, like moving to Maven. But I don't think Maven is like the ultimate solution to customers.
Maven's a tool that helps you deliver it, but it's not the solution. Thank you for that comment. All right, and we got time.
We don't, but go ahead.
Yeah.
What's your opinion of shibboleth?
Mixed. Mixed.
I said mixed.
Mixed for we have not in my group. I can speak without. But in other group, there has been a number of evaluation comparing, for example, the SSO I presented with shibboleth, and typically, for example, as far as I remember, as of today, shibboleth doesn't provide the single logout yet, for example, which is present in other solutions. Just to take an example, we believe that the architecture of shibboleth might be more unified, etc. So there are plenty of discussions, at least in Europe, around the usage of shibboleth, which are not always, which are mixed. That's it.
That's it, guys. Thank you very much. Excellent discussion. Thank you.